Ever heard stories so crazy they sound like car myths, except they're true? That's the kind of legacy GM created, where brilliant engines and shocking failures were often two sides of the same coin. And it's this mix of brilliance and controversy that left behind unforgettable chapters in automotive history. Look at some stories like Cadillac's first V8 in 1914 and Chevrolet's deadly 265 Pontiac Firos that spontaneously ignited and hidden 500-plus horsepower monsters. GM's engines haven't just powered cars, they've shaped a century of innovation, scandal, and legend. Some failed, some changed performance forever, and some were so advanced they seemed impossible for their time. This video discusses the 18 shocking facts that will permanently change your view of American engines. Hit that subscribe button right away and hype if you've loved this video so far. 1. Cadillac's first mass-production V8. In 1914, Cadillac shocked the industry with the world's first mass-produced V8 engine. It was a 5.1-liter, 70-horsepower design, and more than 13,000 were sold in the first year alone. The U.S. War Department even ordered 2,035 Cadillacs during World War I for service in France, proving how revolutionary the engine looked at the time. But under the excitement was a dangerous problem. These early V8s suffered major timing failures. Engines locked up without warning, sometimes within months. Mechanics weren't trained to handle V8 complexity, and many dealerships refused service entirely. Customers who thought they'd purchased cutting-edge technology often ended up with expensive, immovable cars. The twist is here. This gamble shaped history even though it almost destroyed Cadillac's reputation. By 1927, Cadillac was building around 48,000 V8 vehicles every year, showing the world that complex engines could be mass-produced affordably. 2. The oil-starved assassin Chevrolet's deadly 265 small block. In 1955, Chevrolet launched the 265 cubic inch small block V8, a compact, lightweight, and powerful engine that instantly became the brand's answer to Ford's dominant flathead V8. On paper, the design seemed perfect, boasting one of the best bore-to-stroke ratios of its time. Excited buyers rushed to dealerships, eager to finally get a Chevy with real muscle. The hidden defect was deadly: oil starvation. The 265 had extremely narrow oil passages that clogged easily with even slightly dirty oil. Engines ran smoothly for months or years, then suddenly seized, often destroying transmissions in the process. Mechanics quietly nicknamed it the Assassin because it could fail without warning. Internal records later revealed that Chevrolet executives were aware of the risk but rushed production to avoid falling behind Ford. The gamble was risky, but its failure forced GM to rethink oiling systems entirely. Lessons from the 265 directly led to the legendary 283 in 1957, the 327 in 1962, and the 350 in 1967, engines that defined American performance for decades. 3. The betrayal that shook America. The 1977 Oldsmobile engine scandal. In 1977, luxury car buyers expecting the famous Oldsmobile Rocket V8 were shocked to find that many cars had Chevrolet small-block engines instead. Joseph Maffei, an Oldsmobile Delta 88 owner, discovered his engine wasn't a Rocket V8 and filed a lawsuit. The case exposed that Buicks and Pontiacs had also been affected. GM defended the swap, claiming all engines are substantially similar, arguing the engine's origin didn't matter as long as it worked. Buyers disagreed. They had chosen Oldsmobile for its heritage and performance. The company refunded $550 to affected owners, but trust was broken. The scandal forced GM to disclose engine sharing publicly, changing how the company handled V8 production and proving that buyers cared about engine identity as much as performance. 4. The 1979 diesel disaster, GM's costly gamble. In 1979, when the oil crisis hit, gasoline cost around 86 cents per gallon, while diesel was 56 cents. GM converted the 350 V8 gasoline engine to diesel, but the Oldsmobile diesel couldn't handle the stresses. Head gaskets blew, cooling systems failed, fuel injection leaked, and engines overheated. Engineer Darrell R. Sand warned GM, but was allegedly fired. Buyers like Peter and Diane Halferty spent $20,000 on a diesel Cadillac Seville, enduring multiple engine and transmission replacements before their warranties ran out. California emissions tests in 1980 revealed that none of 9 diesel-equipped cars could pass, and most had transmission failures. Activist groups across 14 states gathered 10,000 members demanding justice. By the mid-1980s, many engines were partially fixed, but the damage to GM's reputation was lasting. 5. The fire-breathing sports car, Pontiac Firo's explosive legacy. GM aimed to build America's first mid-engine sports car, the Pontiac Fiero, for a Ferrari-like experience at a fraction of the cost. Launched in 1984, it looked sleek and promised speed and style, but the Fiero became infamous for one alarming reason. It spontaneously caught fire, and the truth behind it will shock you. The problem wasn't random. GM had crammed a tiny 3-quart oil pan into the 2.5-liter Iron Duke engine to save space, starving it of oil. On top of that, a batch of defective connecting rods lurked inside. When these rods failed, which happened far too often, they literally punched through the engine block, sending hot oil flying onto the exhaust manifold. Fires erupted instantly. Internal memos later revealed that 10 to 40% of early connecting rods were faulty. GM tried blaming drivers, but even perfectly maintained new cars caught fire. When GM finally recalled 136,000 Fieros in 1987, the fix was laughably simple. A new dipstick, an oil filter, and a sticker reading "Check Engine Oil." The Fiero's fiery failure reshaped GM's approach to mid-engine cars. 6. The Northstar's beautiful curse, Cadillac's high-tech nightmare. In 1992, Cadillac rolled out the Northstar V8, a marvel of engineering. 4 valves per cylinder, double overhead cams, 4.6 liters producing 295 horsepower. It was smooth, quiet, and so advanced that engines sometimes started before drivers even turned the key. Cadillac called it revolutionary. Internally, engineers knew it was a ticking time bomb. The Northstar's Achilles heel? Torque to yield head bolts that broke inside the aluminum block, letting coolant flood cylinders and destroy the engine. That was just the beginning. Rear main seal failures, oil consumption from carbon-clogged piston rings, and valve cover leaks created a constant headache. Every fix seemed to spawn new problems. From 1993 to 1999, Cadillac quietly patched issues, but the public saw only the hype of innovation. The real shock, Cadillac marketed the Northstar as reliable and high-tech while knowing it was flawed. Buyers avoided Northstar-equipped cars, mechanics feared them, and resale values sank. The Northstar's legacy reshaped GM's V8 philosophy. The Northstar proved that in luxury performance, dependability beats dazzling engineering every time. 7. The forbidden fruit, Chevrolet's banned 396 big block. In 1965 to 1966, Chevrolet developed the 396 cubic inch big block V8 to outmuscle Ford and Chrysler in the horsepower wars. The L78 version was officially rated at 375 horsepower, but dyno tests revealed 420 to 425 horsepower, already over NHRA limits. Skilled racers soon discovered minor tweaks could push it past 500 horsepower. Chevy also secretly built the L89, featuring aluminum cylinder heads for surgical airflow. Stock, it delivered 450 plus horsepower. GM executives froze as the power exceeded tire and chassis limits, creating serious safety and regulatory risks. About 50 L89s were built, mostly for testing, and several prototypes were wrecked in accidents. By 1967, GM quietly capped passenger car engines at 400 advertised horsepower, forever shaping the muscle car era and American V8 culture. 8. The Vortec Revolution. How GM reinvented airflow. In 1985, GM quietly introduced the Vortec concept, starting with the 4.3-liter V6 in Chevrolet trucks. The goal was simple but clever: make air swirl inside the combustion chamber. This vortex improved fuel-air mixing, giving more power, better fuel efficiency, and lower emissions, all invisible to the driver. The early stages were tough. Initial prototypes performed worse than conventional designs due to chaotic airflow. Engineers spent months experimenting, and some executives even considered canceling the project. The breakthrough came when GM redesigned the cylinder heads, introducing shallow-angle intake ports, heart-shaped combustion chambers, and precise valve placement. This turned chaotic swirls into controlled, efficient power. By 1996, the L31 Vortec heads debuted. The technology quickly became the foundation of GM trucks and SUVs for almost 30 years. Later, Vortec airflow principles influenced LS Series V8 engines, proving that smart engineering could deliver power, efficiency, and reliability in one package, a legacy that still powers GM performance engines today. 9. The Iron Duke's incredible survival story. GM's most hated engine became one of its most durable, and the reason why might surprise you. The Iron Duke was GM's 2.5-liter four-cylinder, launched in 1977 as Pontiac's answer to the fuel crisis. Designed to be simple and unglamorous, its primary goal was survival under any conditions. Nobody expected it to outlast most V8s, but it did. Over the next 3 decades, it powered vehicles ranging from Pontiac Camaros to Grumman LLV postal trucks, earning a reputation for toughness few engines could match. Its nickname, Iron Duke, was well-earned. With a cast-iron block, forged internals, and conservative engineering, it could rack up hundreds of thousands of miles with only basic maintenance. Mechanics often watched in awe as these engines in postal trucks exceeded the lifespans of many V8s. The secret to its durability? The Iron Duke was essentially half of Pontiac's 301 V8. Engineers cut the V8 in half, borrowed the architecture, and unintentionally created one of GM's most indestructible engines. Slow, rough, and loud, it was widely criticized, but practically impossible to destroy. Its legacy is clear: durability often wins over stylishness. 10. The LS Revolution. How GM's obsolete pushrod design conquered the world. In 1997, while the car world chased overhead cam engines, GM launched the LS1 V8 in the Corvette C5. Critics mocked its pushrod design, single cam in the block, similar to of 1950s engines, but GM was quietly revolutionary. The 5.7-liter all-aluminum LS1 weighed 467 pounds, nearly 100 pounds lighter than rivals, and fit almost any engine bay, producing 345 horsepower and 350 pound-feet reliably. Its innovation lay in cathedral port heads inspired by Vortec airflow, coil-on-plug ignition, and a deep skirt block for durability. By the early 2000s, hot rodders were dropping LS engines into countless vehicles, creating a massive aftermarket boom. The LS family proved that simple, smart engineering could outperform complex designs, reshaping GM's performance DNA and forcing competitors to rethink the modern V8. 11. The ZL1 mystery, Chevrolet's most extreme secret engine. In 1969, Chevrolet secretly built the ZL1427 Big Block, an all-aluminum engine designed for Can-Am racing. Civilians could buy it only with the hidden RPO code ZL1. It never appeared in brochures, and just 50 were made, mostly for Camaros, with only 2 in Corvettes, costing $4,718, more than many complete cars. Its lightweight aluminum construction saved nearly 100 pounds, and with an aggressive cam, high compression, and race-bred internals, it made over 500 horsepower, though officially rated at 430 horsepower. Street use was tough. Rough idle, tricky tuning, and a need for race fuel frustrated many, some even swapping it for standard engines. The ZL1 showed race-level tech could reach civilians, influencing GM's halo engines like the LS9, LT5, and ZZ632, and proved there was a market for extreme, exclusive performance. 12. The Big Block's last stand, Vortec 8100's final roar. By 2001, Big Block V8s were fading due to fuel economy rules, emission standards, and lighter cars, but GM went out with a bang. The Vortec 8100 was an 8.1-liter V8, the largest in GM history and the company's final big block. At 496 cubic inches, it surpassed the legendary 454. Engineers packed modern tech inside, including LS1 cathedral port heads, electronic fuel injection, and advanced engine management. Producing 340 horsepower and 455 pound-feet of torque, it excelled at towing heavy loads without emissions penalties. Redesigned combustion chambers, intake ports, and exhausts improved airflow, making it smoother and quieter than many smaller V8s. It could tow over 12,000 pounds. Production ended in 2009, ending a line that began with Cadillac's first V8 in 1914. The Vortec 8100 proved that big engines could meet modern standards, influence today's large gas V8s, and show that sometimes bigger really is better. 13. The turbo rocket experiment, Oldsmobile's premature future. In 1962, Oldsmobile amazed the automotive world by building the first turbocharged V8 production car, decades ahead of its time. Called the Turbo Rocket V8, it was a 215 cubic inch aluminum engine with a Garrett T5 turbo and a complex fluid injection system to manage boost. On paper, it made 215 horsepower. Not huge today, but impressive for a small engine in the early 60s. The problem was reliability. Mechanics struggled with failing seals, clogged fluid lines, and unpredictable boost control. Drivers sometimes experienced sudden surges that could cause accidents. By 1965, Oldsmobile quietly ended the experiment. Even so, the turbo rocket wasn't a failure. The lessons learned laid the foundation for modern GM turbo engines, like the LTG and LSY. It proved that American engineers could push boundaries, even if the world wasn't ready yet for such radical technology. 14. The displacement wars. How GM's 454 started an engine battle. In 1970, Chevrolet released the 454 Big Block, and it shocked the muscle car world. The LS6 version had a 7.4-liter engine and over 450 horsepower, making it the most powerful car of the time. Competitors panicked. Ford engineers went to drag races with calipers and micrometers, trying to copy parts. Chrysler even paid former GM workers for secrets. GM sent security to races to stop spying. The tension peaked at the 1971 Daytona 500 when a Corvette ZR2 with a 454 broke down, and rumors said a rival tried to sabotage it. GM pulled support from racing to keep people safe. At the same time, GM studied Ford's 429 Cobra Jet and Chrysler's 426 Hemi. This started an engine arms race. Ford built the 460, Chrysler the 440, and AMC the 401, all because of Chevrolet's 454. 15. The V864 disaster, Cadillac's premature cylinder deactivation. 30 years before cylinder deactivation became standard, Cadillac tried to build a V8 that could run on just 4 cylinders, and ended up with one of its most notorious engines. In 1981, Cadillac introduced the V864, a revolutionary idea. The engine could automatically switch between 8, 6, or 4 cylinders to save fuel. On paper, it was genius. Full power when needed, efficiency when cruising. But in reality, it became a nightmare. The system relied on 1981-era electronics, primitive sensors, sluggish processors, and unreliable actuators. The result? The engine would randomly deactivate cylinders, sometimes cutting power mid-merge or suddenly lurching, as cylinders reactivated, scaring drivers and passengers alike. Cadillac knew the system was flawed but pressed on anyway. Dealers often disabled the feature, forcing the car to run on all 8 cylinders. The V864 lasted just 1 year, damaging Cadillac's reputation. Ironically, modern engines now execute this perfectly, proving the concept was right, just decades too early. 16. The 409's Beach Boys mystery, the engine that never was. The Beach Boys made Chevrolet's 409 engine famous in their 1962 hit song. But the twist is, it wasn't actually available to the public yet. Early 409s were limited production racing engines installed only in select high-performance Chevrolets. They had around 360 horsepower with single 4-barrel carburetors, but were expensive, fragile, and tricky for normal drivers to handle. The Beach Boys learned about the 409 through hot rod friends who had access to these racing versions. Their song created huge demand, and by 1963, Chevrolet finally offered street-friendly 409 engines, including a 340-horsepower version with hydraulic lifters. The Beach Boys had indirectly forced GM to build the engine fans imagined. This story showed how culture and popular perception could influence automotive engineering almost as much as technical design. 17. The LT5 conspiracy. The engine too powerful for its own car. When GM asked Lotus to build the ultimate Corvette engine, They ended up creating a power plant so advanced it actually outshone the car it was supposed to live in. In 1990, Chevrolet unveiled the LT5, a 5.7-liter V8 with quad-cam technology, aluminum construction, and 375 horsepower, a level of engineering that seemed straight out of the future. It powered the legendary Corvette ZR1 and marked GM's first real attempt to compete with European supercars. But here's the twist. GM deliberately held the engine back. Lotus engineers designed it to hit over 450 horsepower, but executives limited its output, worried that the ZR1 might be too wild to handle. Adding to the mystery, early LT5s hit the advertised 375 horsepower, but later engines quietly pushed 405 horsepower, no press release, no fanfare, just GM testing the waters. Shockingly, the engine could accelerate faster than the brakes could stop, generate more heat than the cooling system could handle, and strain the transmission. GM had built a supercar engine trapped in a car not ready for it. Only 6,939 were made before the LT5 was discontinued in 1995, leaving a legacy that wouldn't be seen again until the LS9 in 2009. 18. The small block's immortal legacy, 100 million and counting. GM's small block V8 didn't just change cars, it changed expectations. Introduced in 1955 as a 265 cubic inch engine, no one could have guessed it would become the most produced V8 in history. Turning the small block into a true cultural icon. Its success wasn't luck. It was smart design. The engine's architecture was flexible and scalable from 265 to 502 cubic inches, fit in everything from compact cars to race machines, and ran on different fuels. Even more surprisingly, GM encouraged modifications. Instead of locking down the technology, they shared specs and maintained mounting consistency, sparking a whole aftermarket industry. Hot rodders swapped small blocks into everything: Ford cars, European sports cars, even trucks, spreading GM influence everywhere. Over decades, the small block evolved with the times. Carburetors became fuel injection, and points ignition became modern electronics, but the foundation stayed the same. Today, the LT Series V8 continues that legacy, proving that brilliant design endures. Its principles, adaptability, aftermarket friendliness, and consistent architecture set the standard for every modern engine family, from Ford's Coyote to Chrysler's Hemi. The V8 legacy that changed everything? GM's V8 engines didn't just move cars, they moved culture. From Cadillac's 1914 mass-produced V8 to today's LS powerhouses, GM turned engines into legends. These 18 stories reveal fires, scandals, and breakthroughs, showing the risks and rewards of bold innovation. The real shock? How these machines shaped generations, influenced global car design, and created an emotional bond between drivers and their cars. Every rumble, every instant throttle response is a century of daring engineering. GM's V8s prove that sometimes the most audacious choices make the most enduring legends. Which GM engine shocked you the most? The one that set cars on fire, sparked a scandal, or redefined performance forever? If you love this ride through horsepower, subscribe now to catch more amazing automotive stories. And don't forget to comment below. We want to know which engine you'd take for a spin and which story blew your mind the most. Every engine has a legacy. What's yours?